Daniel Moylan is the aviation advisor to the Mayor of London. He led the Mayor of London's work on aviation policy over the last 3 years. He was Deputy Chairman of Transport for London from 2009 to 2012 and remains a board member there. He's a non-executive director of Crossrail, served as Chairman of the London Legacy Development Corporation during the 2012 Olympic and Paralympics, and he has been a Conservative councillor in Kensington and Chelsea since 1990. He was the council's deputy leader from 2000 to 2011. He's here as the Mayor's man. He's going to give us the Mayor's view on what he feels London needs in terms of improved connectivity as it seeks to maintain its status as a world city.
Well, Kirsty, thank you very much indeed. Boris Johnson, I think we'd all acknowledge, is an elemental political force, but he is also the holder of a great political office with specific legal powers and responsibilities. And my job today is to tell you how the Mayor of London sees the debate about aviation. And I make the distinction between the man and the office because, for a wide range of reasons, in my view, any Mayor of London will approach the issue in very similar ways. Now, immediately there will be those who say this is all going to be about London. But the fact is that the UK's aviation crisis is a London phenomenon, and whatever the solution, if it doesn't work for London, it isn't going to work for the rest of the country. And indeed, this is implicitly acknowledged throughout the interim report of the Airports Commission. Now, the Mayor has strategic responsibility for the development of the capital. He's legally required to produce a London plan, setting out how the capital is going to develop over the coming decades. He's responsible for all major planning applications. He delivers and invests in the public transport system. He has duties in relation to economic development and air quality. And he is, of course, the elected advocate of the interests of Londoners now, and because of his planning responsibilities, in coming generations. He presides over a city in which, as Sir Howard said, the population has grown by 330,000 since 2008, when he entered office, and where it is forecast to reach 8.7 million by 2016 and 10 million by 2030. He's responsible for planning for the homes and jobs those people will need, and for securing for them an environment that meets the standards we expect in a civilized city, and the no doubt higher environmental standards we will require with growing prosperity. And the Mayor works as hard as he can to secure that prosperity for the future, encouraging investment in the capital and welcoming foreign firms that want to set up here. And of course, those interested in aviation should never forget that without Boris battling for the topic to be moved up the political agenda, especially after the 2010 election, we would probably still be sitting today with a better, not bigger, policy of relative inaction. And it was because of his battle that the Airports Commission was set up. He was not consulted about a decision of such vital significance to the capital, and he reacted angrily to the announcement, and especially to the changes in cabinet personnel that accompanied it, because he feared that the Commission was being used not only as a means of deferring a decision, which was palpably the case, but as a way of securing the worst possible outcome for the capital, that is, an additional runway at Heathrow, which will inevitably be followed by a fourth, as the evidence in the Commission's interim report makes clear, even if the formal conclusion at this stage leaves the question open. Nonetheless, he resolved to work with the Commission, and by contrast to many politicians, he was not in the NIMBY business of merely rubbishing other people's ideas, but put several deliverable alternatives on the table. But he became increasingly puzzled by the approach taken by the Commission and was profoundly unsettled by the Commission's interim report when it was released just before Christmas. And to understand why, it's necessary to go back to those statutory duties and leadership responsibilities I listed. The Mayor supports new aviation capacity primarily because of the economic and social benefits it brings. But those benefits cannot be outweighed by the harm such expansion will do, a harm acknowledged by all in the form of noise and air pollution and surface transport congestion. And the benefits will not be realised unless they fit into a coherent spatial plan for the development of the capital, for which he is legally responsible, more challenging now than when the subject of aviation was last considered because of the clear evidence of population growth, such that planners have to anticipate a dynamic and changing city rather than respond to a static one. There is room for new housing in and to the east of the capital, but of course there are insufficient employment opportunities. there, hence the chronic relative poverty of East Enders, while West London's economy is one of the most vibrant in Europe. Now, in that light, to provide homes, work and an attractive environment for a population of 10 million by 2030, there could be few more effective interventions than relocating our major airport to the eastern side of the capital, releasing land on the Heathrow site for homes for 200,000 people. A well-functioning hub airport with a very small noise footprint capable of operating at all hours and with the potential for growth would be a powerful stimulus to economic activity. By contrast to ramming yet more demand into Heathrow, it would bring tremendous regeneration benefits to the eastern side of the capital. And the new roads and rail that would serve the airport would open up large swathes of the estuary that are currently remote from economic activity, by contrast to Heathrow expansion, which would simply add yet more demand to an inadequate rail service by international airport standards and the most crowded part of the national motorway network. The brute fact is that this is not all about aviation. New runways will only work for business, for the capital and for the country if they are part of a larger plan for providing housing and jobs for rising numbers of Londoners, ideally located in the right places. But in the Aviation Commission's interim report, there is scant evidence that these considerations are understood as fundamental to an infrastructure decision of this significance. It is true that the Commission acknowledges that the Mayor's approach, quotes, would deliver the most significant noise reduction of any of the options considered at this stage, effectively solving the problem of airport noise, and could deliver a scale of benefits, quote, greater than for any of the other options considered. But there is no application of the same criteria to the other options, nor is there even a sense of the Mayor's role. They have treated the Mayor with personal courtesy, but essentially at arm's length, on the same basis as the promoters of expansion at existing airports. Despite being told that the Mayor occupies a very different position, they have continued to deal with his office as if it were on a par with a private company motivated by commercial interests. This is absurd. And this has been reinforced by another step taken by the Commission. It was sensible, of course, to invite anyone with a good idea to work it up for submission. Knowing what other people think is a powerful stimulus to one's own thoughts. But the Commission, without much clarity of explanation, allowed this process to turn from one that informed their studies into a sort of BAFTA awards, one in which non-commercially backed submissions were clearly at a disadvantage. The weakness of this process has been exacerbated by the fact that at no point prior to the awards ceremony in December did the Commission say what objectives the proposals were expected to fulfil. Instead, they used a sift process taken from what transport engineers do when they're, say, assessing options for increasing a motorway's capacity. But in the latter case, one does at least know at the outset what capacity one is trying to achieve. The decision-making to date, by contrast, has had, if I may say so, a touch of the Simon Cowell about it, with conclusions in some cases startlingly adrift from the numerical and other evidence in the interim report. It is time, in my view, for the Commission seriously to engage with the Mayor, with his legal responsibilities and with his outstanding transport experts. Now, at the heart of this is the Commission's debatable approach to its own remit. This states that it is to recommend, quotes, options for maintaining the UK status as an international hub for aviation. And yet the Commission is making a terrible meal about the question what a hub is and whether we actually need one. The industry and most passengers entirely understand what a hub airport is, and the Mayor fully supports that model for the additional connectivity it provides. And indeed, the Commission's interim report contains fulsome evidence that we need a well-functioning hub airport with adequate capacity. Yet the Commission has seen fit to include as one of its favoured options a new runway at Gatwick that would diminish hub capacity, not maintain it. A great deal is made of the recent growth of low-cost carriers. But leaving aside to what extent one would erect a national strategy for the next half-century on the basis of the current and itself developing business model of Ryanair or EasyJet, let me just say that because the low-cost carriers have a different operating model from so-called legacy airlines, does not mean they need a separate airport necessarily. Low-cost carriers need facilities for quick turnaround at acceptable landing charges. These can be designed into a new airport, and the LCC passengers can then, even in small numbers, add to the demand that makes other more marginal routes viable. The Commission has also seriously underestimated the surface access costs of delivering significant expansion at Heathrow, In fact, the scale of increase in passenger and staff journeys at a 4-runway Heathrow has been shown by TfL to require a new dedicated rail line into a number of London termini and a significant expansion of motorway capacity. Little of this is recognised or costed in by the Commission. Yet if Heathrow expansion makes road and rail travel hopelessly congested in West London, it will, to put it mildly, not yield significant economic or social benefits. And indeed, on costings, the matter is even worse. The Commission has added a large percentage of risk and contingency to all submissions, which is why they come up with a huge figure for a new airport, but before doing so, they actually cut Heathrow's own cost estimates uniquely amongst winning submissions. Why did they do this? Whatever the reason, a grossly unfair advantage has been given to Heathrow by the combination of these steps. The Airports Commission seems to see its task as finding a solution that satisfies, as far as may be, the competing and sometimes incompatible private interests of a range of aviation players, a sort of Rubik's Cube of self-motivated interests. For example, a 4-runway hub airport at Stansted has been dropped for flimsy reasons, but the suspicion is that this is because the owner went cool on the idea. But where is the voice of the public interest in this? With the government and the official opposition deliberately opting out of the debate for now, only the Mayor is left articulating that. So it was with a very heavy heart that he read the comment of the Commission Chairman to the BBC in December, that in regard to its studies of an estuary airport in the next 6 months, the Commission Chair, Sir Howard, is not sure that the Mayor has, quote, got a lot more information to give us. Well, I have to say the Mayor does have a great deal more to add. Now, of course, the Mayor's vision for London is a bold one, though no bolder than is required by the challenges he and his successors face in ensuring that London has the infrastructure to produce millions of new jobs and tens of thousands of new homes. But it's not an unprecedented boldness. Other cities have relocated their main airport, normally with huge economic success. Where are the studies of that? Can the Commission rise above the besetting lures of parochialism so characteristic of the English and undertake some studies of international comparisons? We're told that by some that relocating Heathrow would decimate the West London economy. The Commission's own study by Lee Fisher, released over the holidays, gives the lie to that. But is,
just a minute.
I'm very close to the end. But is anyone asking whether it did so not theoretically, but in fact in Munich, Hong Kong or Denver, to take but a few? Indeed, I can help the Airports Commission because I have from the Mayor of Denver's office an 8-foot wall chart, 8 foot, setting out all the steps you need to take to move an airport from one side of the city to another. And just finally, the Commission's interim report bafflingly states, in the face of the evidence it has itself assembled, that the UK does not face an immediate capacity crisis, and that a single extra runway will be sufficient by 2030. This is very much, of course, Heathrow's corporate business plan. But the Mayor does not agree. What the evidence in the report shows is that if we had a magic wand, we would have a 3-runway hub airport today and a 4-runway hub airport by 2030. Now, we don't have a magic wand, so we need to be planning now for that 4-runway hub by 2030. And in the meantime, the Commission acknowledges, as Joe Valentine has spelt out, the damage that is being done to the economy in the meantime. So I'm very happy to take questions if there is still time.
Yes, quick couple, 2 or 3 questions. It's only fair because other people give questions. Gentlemen over there, we'll get the microphone to you. Keep your hand up, please. Thanks very much indeed. Yes, your question.
Thank you. Good morning, Mike Ritter. Good morning, Daniel. You took some time, or the Mayor did, to actually nail any colours to Stansted. It's always been the estuary. Considering that the point is to redevelop East London, would it not have been easier to actually go for surface access to actually push Stansted right away, rather than cross the water into the estuary, and wouldn't it have been a lot cheaper?
Yeah, because we know that surface access to Isle of Rain is much, much more than surface access improvements to Heathrow.
No, it's not. I think I tried to address that in, sorry, I need to pick that up. I think I tried to address that in my speech. The surface access to Heathrow is already extremely congested. If you were to have effectively an extra 50% followed by an extra 100% of passengers and the staff movements, which are very, very considerable at any large airport, certainly at Heathrow, you would in fact need a dedicated new rail line into London and massive expansion of the motorway system around Heathrow, which is already the most congested system in the country.
Stansted.
The Mayor put forward 3 proposals to the Commission in July, I thought reasonably clearly, and one of them was for a major 4-runway hub airport at Stansted, worked up in detail to the same level as the Isle of Grain, and he regrets very much that for rather flimsy reasons the Commission has eliminated that.
Thank you. Question over here.
Kirsty, you must be psychic. I'm Brian Ross from Stop Stansted Expansion campaign. But my question is this. Daniel, your speech this morning sounded like a rehearsal for a legal challenge to Sir Howard Davis. Is that what's on your mind?
Was it fair to say that speech went past Boris's desk?
Every word in that speech was written by me.
And did it go past Boris's desk?
Every word in the speech was
Yes,
written
it
by
did.
me. Brian, if I were contemplating a legal challenge, and I am not, particularly, though I'm not a lawyer, there is nobody I would come to for advice more readily than I would to you, on the basis of your track record.
There's a gentleman, you may have to shout, because I don't know where the mic is, but there's a chance for question. Yes, shout.
That's fine, that's okay. Do you agree that the Mayor, like the aviation industry, has no credible strategy to meet the requirements of the UK's Climate Change Act? That's the 80% cuts by 2050.
Thank you.
What the Mayor has proposed and the submissions put to Davis in July are entirely consistent with and demonstrated to be consistent with the legal obligations imposed by Parliament under the Climate Change Act.
Finally, if Boris was Prime Minister, what would happen? I mean, a lot of things would happen, but what would happen to the airport solution?
You know, that thought has never, ever...
No. Daniel, thank you very much indeed. Right.